I am Aisling B, writer and creator, and will I call myself lead actor, I think, of This Way Up, which comes out on July the 9th on Hulu. And I'm ready to get buzzed. It'd be nice to be in bed with someone at night other than my pile of shit boyfriend.
What pile of shit boyfriend?
Just like the pile of shit on the other side of my bed, where a person should be.
Oh, come on, mate. Just clear it off your bed.
It'd be nice to have a reason to clear it off.
Now that This Way Up already has such a successful first season under its belt, going into the sophomore season, how are we feeling? Are we still nervous? Are we excited?
Well, that's interesting that you use the word sophomore. I've never heard that before. That's really kind of like last chance university, American cool, like it's sophomore. And I suppose I feel very much like a sophomore might feel, where you're like, you know, the few dramas, you know, the character around, you know how it works, but maybe the summer has changed you. You know what I mean? Maybe the summer, some people have to work, other people got to go to Cabo, whatever it is, but we're coming back into the sophomore season. So yeah, it feels a little bit like more known territory. And I think I definitely felt a lot more confident as a writer and my gut instincts, which was nice. But yeah, I think that's how I sort of feel about it. And this time, yeah.
Definitely interesting because in season 1, the series discussed very heavy topics like mental illness and getting your life together after a breakdown. Do you almost feel like you're ahead of the time since all of a sudden 2020 came in and we were in a lockdown feeling a lot of those things?
Yeah, what's weird is, I suppose with mental health issues, and maybe it's a one potentially positive thing that could come out of this time, is maybe people who've never felt it before. You know, people are like, pep up, why don't you just get it together? Well, if you just went out for a walk, maybe you'd feel better. Mm-hmm. And it's like COVID is something in the air none of us can see that keeps us trapped in our houses, and that's what mental illness is. And I suppose maybe people will have a little bit more of an understanding of that, or the loneliness that comes from not having connection. And you can be around lots of people but not feel connected. And it's been interesting seeing where it comes out. So it just came out, the first series came out in Australia a couple of weeks ago. And it definitely hit in a different way. And you can sort of feel it from how audiences and journalists and everyone get in touch in a different way than it did a year and a half ago. It felt a bit more niche, and now maybe it feels a bit more broad in its not appeal necessarily, but in its thematic connection, without sounding like a artsy knobhead, but in the themes of it, it connects to a broader people.
Yeah, it became very well known and it changed all of our lives completely. On that note, what was it like filming in the middle of a pandemic?
Really terrible.
Tell me more.
I was singing just to take the edge off it, but it was really rough. And I think for everyone, I was very lucky to have such an amazing crew around me. But, you know, everyone's wearing masks. These are people I know and love. You can't see smiles all day long. We started filming the week after Christmas had been cancelled, and people hadn't got to see their loved ones. The numbers were rising in terms of cases. Every single day we didn't know if we'd get shut down or if anyone would get sick, God forbid. 3 members of our team lost loved ones while we were filming. So really rough in a way that wasn't like rough in a way that sometimes you talk about a job being tough, but the tough things are like, 2 cast members didn't get on, or this was rough in a lot more of a real way. And that was the stakes felt so much higher making a TV show for the people who are working for you. And that felt that, so it felt sad for that to be the experience of your show, because I spent 9 months writing it and caring about it, and it's my art and my work, and then you hope that people would have a nice time, but it was inevitable that it couldn't be fabulous, or there's still no one's ever had a drink to celebrate it ending or anything like that, so
that's heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm so sorry. But on that
note, not the worst story of the pandemic at all, but just in terms of that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But on that note, I mean, you still did create a fabulous piece of art. So on that, how are you able to find that balance between comedy and these tough topics, especially during a time that was so dark?
I think that that's where I sit in terms of what I like and how I make my jokes. And it's very Irish, to be honest. I think culturally, if you look at kind of British comedy, it tends to be dark in a sort of mumbled way, which is excellent, but kind of, whereas Irish people do big jokes and big darkness right side by side, and they're not the opposite of each other. We kind of like make jokes about funerals and that sort of Irish culture, and would be like sometimes devoutly religious and absolutely take the piss out of Jesus. Like that's where we kind of sit tonally. So it isn't tough for me to find that line, because that's where I sort of sit tonally myself.
Sure. And how will this new season break even more barriers and boundaries than the prior?
I think maybe, have you watched 1 to 6, or how much of it have you watched?
I've watched the first 3.
First three. I think, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but maybe the one barrier is in episode 6. There's a topic which when you see it, that was definitely the one that felt, oh, am I doing the right thing by going into it? But maybe that was the challenge. I knew I could write about like a woman going through a difficult time and find the balance there. But what about other things? So that's where even as I filmed it and as I edited, it was kind of upsetting to do. And I had to step in and do the edit. So I've edited episode 6 myself. And so it's the most personal episode of them all for a million reasons. But that one was the one that maybe it's not something that is maybe hinted at. It happens sort of thing. So you'll see what I mean in that one. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. No spoilers. I imagine without the immediate feedback that this stands true, but did writing this show differ from stand-up in the way that you're inspired and approach the series? I'm back doing stand-up. I'm so happy doing it. And I think the reason is I love showing people my work. I work and make stuff for audiences, for yourself to watch, for anyone, whether it's one person or I'm making a joke to a waiter in a restaurant. That's what I love doing. And when you're locked up for 9 months writing and no one until literally you guys now are seeing the show, you're not topped up by anything and you're not sort of inspired by anything. So it was really tough work. So stand-up gives you the sort of immediacy of that. And that's definitely, even when you're acting, at least when you're acting in a scene, someone comes in and says it with you and you're experiencing the thing together. But I don't love creating or working on my own. I would rather work with, even if whether it's an audience or another stand-up or something to bounce off. That's how I light up. Yeah, especially because a lot of stand-up stems from little observations that you've made about strangers and loved ones during your lifetime. Are there any little quirks that you've picked up on from your family or friends that you've put into these characters?
Oh, millions, so many. I mean, my mother has watched some of the show now. I think she's watched 1 to 3 like you have. Mm-hmm. And when she was on the phone to me yesterday, she was like, oh no, I don't want to tell you now that I have to get off the phone to have a pee, because that's what you wrote into the show, but it's true. I need to get off the phone to have a pee. And I go around watching. I definitely have always been like that, where I've watched how people move and talk and their little intricacies. I'm fascinated by I used to love meeting people's parents because I love knowing a backstory to someone. Like I'd love to meet your parents after meeting them. Like, oh God, how did you come to be? And that's really interesting to see little things and quirks, and that's how that turns into that character.
It literally doesn't make sense. I have 2 hippie parents who are like the biggest deadheads you'll ever meet.
And there you are with your plaits, your flowers in the background of yours. So something gets in, something sneaks in.
I think this is my mom. I think she came to visit and was like, no, this is going to go here.
But you know what I mean? Like something you'll think, oh, nothing like them. And suddenly you'll be like, well, I'm looking at you with your kind of 1960s look with the flowers in the back. And I'm like, things creep in. You know?
You're so right. Before I let you go, now that the 2nd season is ready to air, what do you hope viewers will take from it?
I hope people will feel seen by it. And I hope people will feel, especially after this year, like there's something in there that might connect with them to their experience, the feeling of what people have experienced this year, if not the actual circumstance. Because I think that's what the thing is. It's a similar feeling that people are having at the moment, no matter what their experience is, whether it's overwhelmment or not connecting with loved ones or getting the words wrong or pressure and or loneliness. So I hope people feel a little bit of like, oh, there's a little bit of me in there in that way. That's what I'd like, I think.
Absolutely. And from what I've seen, I think you really do accomplish that. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. You're lovely.
Oh, thank you so much. And for this lovely sort of world that you've created there in your hippie house. I love it. You know?
Thank you so much for coming to join me. I appreciate it.
And hashtag free Britney always, okay?
Yes.
Away.
I don't think I've ever heard so many Jesuses.
Yeah, sorry to talk about my ex in bed. I love you. Do you love me? Goodbye. I love you. Do you love me?
No.
Do you love me?
I love you.
Bye.